The 40-Day Mirror, a journey through Jewish character. I'm Rabbi David Kadosh, and welcome to Day 12. Yesterday we spoke about busha, healthy shame, the moral immune system that keeps us honest and propels us back towards who we truly are. Today we look at its direct opposite. Today we look about Azut Panim, brazenness, shamelessness, the face that has forgotten how to blush. And I want to begin with something that might surprise you. Azut Panim is not always loud. It's not always the person who cuts you off in traffic and then gives you a look. It's not always the bully, the loudmouth, the person with no filter. Sometimes Azut Panim is very quiet. It's very polished and very, very dangerous. The Mishnah Avot presents us with one of the most chilling character sketches in all of rabbinic literature. It lists the qualities of a golem, a spiritually undeveloped person. And near the top of the list is this: Habaishan lo lamed, a person who is too embarrassed to ask questions will never learn. And then immediately following, as if in deliberate contrast, Azut Panim la, and the brazen person goes to Geinam. Two extremes. Too much shame, you stop growing. Too little, you lose your soul. The Mishnah is telling us that busha and Azut Panim are not just opposites on a spectrum. They are two different relationships with the same fundamental question: do I answer to anything beyond myself? The Gemara in Betzah says, Azut Panim la Geinam uboshet Panim la Gan Eden. The brazen go to Gehinam and the shamefaced go to Gan Eden. Strong words. But why? What is it about shamelessness that is so spiritually catastrophic? Rav Yitzchak Kutner, the Pachad Yitzchak, explains it this way. Busha is the experience of being seen by a standard higher than yourself. You feel shame because some part of you recognizes that you have fallen short of something true, something real, something that matters. Even the worst sinner who still feels shame retains a connection to the higher standard. The thread is still there. Azut Panim is what happens when that thread snaps. Not when a person sins. Everyone sins. When a person sins, it feels nothing. When there is no inner witness left. When the face that should reflect conscience has gone completely blank. And a person with no inner witness cannot do teshuvah, because teshuvah requires the ability to stand before yourself and say, that was wrong. The brazen person has lost the capacity to say that. Not because he disagrees, but because he has simply stopped asking the question. Now, I want to make a distinction that I think is crucial, especially in the world we live in today. There is a kind of boldness, a holy chutzpah, if you will, that looks like Azut Panim from the outside, but is something completely different on the inside. The Torah tells us that Pinchas acted with extraordinary boldness in a moment of national crisis. Avraham argued with Hashem over the fate of Sodom. The great Torah sages throughout history challenged, debated, pushed back, refused to be silent when silence was complicit. That's not Azut Panim, that's courage. And the difference is not in the act, it's in the motivation. Holy boldness comes from a place of fierce fidelity to truth and to Hashem. Azut Panim comes from a place of fidelity to self, the ego, to the stubborn refusal to be accountable to anything outside your own comfort. One is a face turned toward heaven, burning with conviction. The other is a face turned inward, sealed against correction. Here's where it gets very personal. Because Azut Panim shows up in our lives not primarily in dramatic moments of public shamelessness, it shows up in small daily patterns that we have stopped noticing. The person who consistently interrupts others in conversation and has never once thought to examine that habit. The person who makes a cutting remark and when challenged doubles down rather than pausing to consider. The person who has been told by multiple people, a spouse, a friend, a colleague, that certain behavior is hurtful and who continues to do it anyway because they have decided the problem lies with everyone else. Azut Panim is the inability to receive feedback. The face that has no porousness, that has learned to deflect every mirror held up to it. And here we are in the middle of 40 days of standing before a mirror. There's a story of a student who came to the Kotzker Rebbe, famous for his fierce and uncompromising pursuit of the inner truth, and declared confidently, Rebbe, I finished the entire Talmud. The Kotzker looked at him and said, I'm not interested in what you have finished. I want to know what has finished you. What has finished you? What has broken through? What has gotten in? Azut Panim is the armor that prevents anything from getting in. And armor, no matter how impressive it looks, is a terrible thing to wear to a relationship with another person or with Hashem. Here's today's question for the mirror. Is there a piece of feedback from a spouse, a friend, a parent, a child that I've been deflecting for months or years that I've never truly let land? Not feedback you necessarily agree with, not feedback that was perfectly delivered, but feedback that, if you are honest, contains a kernel of something true and that you have been protecting yourself from with the armor of Azut Panim. Today, just for today, take the armor off, let it in, see what happens when the face learns to feel again. This has been day 12 of the 40-Day Mirror, a journey through Jewish character. Until tomorrow.